Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a commander that I believe is pretty underrated and one that is crazy good with the right build. So let's jump into it with Orah Skyclave Hierophant, a 3/3 core cleric with lifelink that costs 2 white and a black. Whenever it or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric card with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a commander that says, hey, if you go heavy into clerics, you can get a lot of value, an absurd amount of value. Again, every single time one of your clerics essentially dies, you reanimate another cleric. Now, that cleric is going to be at a lesser mana value, but hey, if you say maybe have a cleric that costs 5, you can reanimate a 4, which can reanimate a 3, which can reanimate a 2. I keep slipping on reanimate. It's a hard word to say over and over again, but you know what I mean. You can keep bringing back creature after creature after creature, and maybe there are certain ways to kind of reset that cycle, let's just say. So we've got a lot of potential with this crazy commander, one that kind of leans into like a weird like reanimation cleric aristocrat style deck that really can work and really can do some crazy things. So with all that said, well, let's just mention that although this commander can do some crazy powerful things, it does not have a crazy high budget. The commander itself is just 9 cents, and yeah, the rest of the deck is very budget friendly too. The total cost of this deck according to Moxfield is just $14.62. And this is the kind of budget deck that can just surprise your opponents out of nowhere and be like, I did not realize that that commander was that good. So yeah, if you are interested in that deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Keep in mind that that estimated cost does not include the cost of, well, shipping or basic lands, but you might already have those basics, or you can borrow them from a friend or LGS, or yeah, maybe you can just buy them in bulk. Regardless, if you're interested, check out that link. Now with all that said, let's jump into the tactics. So let's start things off with tactic number 1, get the party started. First up, there's Wayfarer's Bubble, pay 2 taps, sacrifice, get a basic land into play, tap. Moving on, Everflowing Chalice, basically get half the amount of mana, if I could talk, mana back that you put into this. So if you pay 2, you get 1, 4, you get 2, etc., etc. Also, when it comes to efficient mana rocks, running Charcoal Diamond, enters battlefield, tap, taps for a black. Marble Diamond does the exact same thing, but it taps for a white. Felwar Stone comes into play untapped and usually can tap for each of our colors depending on opponent's land situation. Fractured Power Stone does not tap for our colors, but that's okay. It's very effective, very efficient, low to the ground, taps for a colors, just costs 2. Speaking of which, Mind Stone basically the exact same thing, but we can also pay 1 to tap and sacrifice to draw a card and replace this. Prismatic Lands can also just tap for a colors, but we can also filter our mana if we need to. Speaking of filtering and ramping, we've got Orah's Signet, pay 1 to tap for our guild's colors, and yeah, again, we're running a lot of efficient, lot of effective mana rocks to really get things going. But next up, let's move on to tactic number 2, and we're going to start small with one for the money. We're going to talk about creatures that have, well, a converted mana cost of 1, those clerics that have a converted mana cost of 1 that we can consistently get back again and again and again, because basically any other cleric is going to be bigger than them. So first up, we've got Caregiver. It might not look like much, but this is a very fantastic cleric. A simple 1/1 for 1. Pay a single white mana, sacrifice a creature, prevent the next 1 damage to be dealt to our creature play this turn. We don't really care that much about preventing that damage, but this is a great sacrifice outlet for us that, again, we can keep getting back again and again and again, sacrificing any of our clerics to, again, essentially get one back that is smaller. Moving on, Lunarch Veteran. Benefit in a different way, 1/1 human cleric for 1. Whenever a creature is battlefield under control, you gain 1 life. You can also disturb it back. You might not want to, though, in case you want to just make sure that you can have it in your graveyard. If you do want to disturb back, though, you get the other side, which says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life. But keep in mind, again, if it's put into grave from anywhere, it's exiled instead, so you lose that permanently. So again, it's a risk reward. And then finally, we've got Quarcy High Priest, a 0/2 human cleric that has pay 1 a black, tap, sacrifice a creature, manifest the top card of your library. So again, some extra kind of advantage out of this in a way to actually, again, sacrifice creatures to ensure that we can actually get, you know, the next cleric up. Moving on, though, let's move on to tactic number 3, 2 for the show. And again, at 2 mana, we've got a lot of clerics as well. Bonecaller Cleric. Pay 3 and a black, sacrifice return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, active on sorcery. So this is a great way, and we've got other ways too, to essentially kind of reset that chain. Again, basically, hey, this is just a 2 mana cleric. We can get it back with a lot of other clerics that we are sacrificing, and then all of a sudden, we pay that 4 mana, we sacrifice this, we get back that cleric that maybe costs 5, 6, and yes, even 7 mana to reset that amount, so we can keep getting back smaller and smaller clerics again and again. Next up, Dawnbringer Cleric, very flexible, ETBs, gain 2 life, or destroy target enchantment, or exile a card from your graveyard, so depending on the situation, yeah, you can take advantage of those. Disciple of Grizzlebrand, a fantastic one for us. Pay 1 sacrifice creature, gain life, build sacrifice creature's toughness, so a way to pad our life total a lot, and also a way to say, hey, again, a free, not free, but, very cheap sacrifice out that we can utilize. Next up, also Core Synergistic Pilgrim. This can be a win condition for us, actually. Whenever a creature is battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever a creature control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So gain and drain, a fantastic cleric at 2 mana. Then there's Null Priest of Oblivion. This one's got Kicker for 3 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, again, reanimate a creature out of your graveyard. So a way to, again, reset that chain when we are casting this. Keep in mind, you can't kick it, it's just coming back from the graveyard. That being said, yeah, again, if you're casting it, take advantage of that. Then there's Pitiless Pontiff, another sacrifice outlet for us. We've got a lot of those. Pay 1, sacrifice creature. This is going to gain Death Touch and Indestructible until it turns away. Great blocker, great attacker, and yeah, just a great sacrifice outlet that can protect itself. Professor of Symbology is next. ETBs you learn. So again, basically discard to draw a card. So again, getting a cleric in your graveyard can actually be a very good thing from that. Shadowrite Priest, a great one for this stack. First up, a nice little anthem for our clerics. +1/+1. Pay 3 black, tap, sacrifice our cleric. Go get a black creature card, put it right on the battlefield, then shuffle. So tutor up the best card in your deck, essentially, probably, and get it right into play. What's not to love about that? So that'd be another great, essentially, sacrifice outlet for us. Tap, sacrifice a black artifact creature to add an amount of black equals its mana cost, essentially. A great way to, well, just get a lot of mana, a burst of mana, and again, a repeatable sacrifice outfit. Finally, War Priest of Thune. EDBs, you may destroy target enchantment. That may is nice. We're not destroying our own, but yeah, usually we'll have a target for that. Now let's move on to tactic number 4, 3 for the money. And first up, yeah, again, we've got some creatures. There are some clerics that have, guess what, 3 mana value. Airlift Chaplain is a great one. When ETBs mill 3 cards, you may put a plains or creature card mana value 3 less among them into your hand if you don't get a counter on this. So again, some extra card advantage essentially when this enters the battlefield most likely. Next up, Cabal Archon, a win condition of itself, actually. Pay a black, sacrifice a cleric, drain a player 2, and you gain 2 life. That can add up quickly, and again, it's a sacrifice outlet we can use and abuse throughout the game to ensure that we are getting more and more clerics out. Then there's Demon's Disciple, ETBs, each player sacrifice creature planeswalker. This one can actually just kind of skip its own, essentially, turn. You just essentially, again, you go from, a cleric that costs 5, sacrifice that to get them to cost 4, then you go to 3, you get this one, and it can just sacrifice itself to go get a 2. And also, again, you're taking out opponents' creatures and planeswalkers as well. And there's Eerie Soul Tender, enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards. So again, milling is great for this deck. Fill your creatures, into the graveyard, essentially. Pay 4 and a black, exile from your graveyard. Turn another creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a good, essentially, hey, yeah, we need to get a creature back, essentially. Let's just reset things, and yeah, we get rid of this out of the graveyard. That's okay, though. It's a good, effect to have. Next up, we've got Inspiring Overseer. Enters the battlefield, gain 1 life, draw a card. What's not to love about that? Again, especially when we can use and abuse these ETBs so much throughout the game. Coma's Faithful is next. When it dies, each player mills 3 cards. Again, yet another way to fill our graveyard faster and faster and faster. Pious Evangel is another great card for this deck, though. Whenever it or other creature in the battlefield under control, you gain 1 life. Also pay 2 tap, sacrifice another permanent, transform it. So a once off, sacrifice outlet essentially. Whenever it or another creature control dies, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. You can drain your opponents in absolutely no time with this. Then there's Priest of Ancient Lore. Again, ETBs, gain 1 life, draw a card. What's not to love about that? Priest of Gix, a great burst of mana for us. ETBs add black to your mana pool. Again, that is not a cast trigger requirement, so keep that in mind. Then there's Reliquary Monk. When it's put in a grave from play, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Yeah, this is going to happen quite a bit. Again, we're going to get creatures out. We're going to sacrifice them. We're going to sacrifice this and destroy some things. And then finally, Tabrax, Hope's Demise. As long as it's got 5 more counters on it, it's got lifelink, so that's nice, and get those counters quite quickly. Whenever the non-token creature control dies, you get a counter on it. And if it's a cleric, which again, this entire deck basically is, hey, you may draw a card if you do lose 1 life. We got plenty of ways to gain life. 1 life for 1 card is fantastic. We'll do that every single time. Now let's move on to tactic number 5, 4 to go. And yeah, we've got clerics that cost 4. Doom Necromancer is a fantastic one, and yet another way to kind of reset that. will cleric count, essentially. Pay a black tap, sacrifice it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, we can sacrifice this to go get something back much, much bigger. Again, 5, 6, 7, whatever, reset that chain. Next up, Alms Collector, a great one as well. Flash out, opponent draw 2 more cards. Instead, you and that player each draw a card. So shut opponents down from drawing a ton of cards, and also draw cards yourself. Then there's Sanguinary Priest. Whenever another creature controlled dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. So yet another way to take advantage of our clerics dying, pinging things, and yeah, taking creatures out. Or players, actually. Then there's Shadowheart, Dark Justice Guard. Pay 1 to black tap, sacrifice another creature, draw X cards equal to its power, essentially. So again, yet another repeatable sacrifice outlet for us that also can just net us a ton of cards throughout the game. Sivirus, Nightmare Speaker. Tap, sacrifice a creature or an artifact. For each opponent, mill a card, then return a card from your graveyard to your hand unless that player pays 3 life. That can be fantastic. Can be a great way, again, to fill our graveyard. A great sacrifice outlet for you and gets potential card advantage as well. Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. This can be fantastic if we've got some historic spells. Whenever you cast a historic spell, return to our creature card, mana value 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yet another way to bring even more things back. Again, we got plenty of things that meet that requirement. Yeah, have fun with this once it's in play. Venomous Hierophant is another great one. Enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard, so mill 3 again on ETB. Again, filling our graveyard is only going to be a good thing. And then finally, Whispered Blood Liturgist, yet another way to reset things. Tap, sacrifice 2 creatures, return to our creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, reset that clock. Go back up to, again, 5, 6, 7 mana value, and start that again. But now let's move on to tactic number 6, high 5, because yeah, we are clerics that cost 5. Bishopry Rebirth is a great one, 3/4 Vigilant. Whenever it attacks, you may return target creature card with converting mana cost 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, yet another way to kind of start a little separate mini chain, you know, bring back a creature that costs 3, of course, sacrifice that to get a 2, sacrifice that to get a 1, so on and so forth. Repeat that, have fun. Custodial Lich is a great one as well. ETBs, you become the Monarch. Lovely. Introducing the Monarch can be great for a deck like this. When you become the Monarch, target player sacrifice a creature, so yet another way to essentially, well, use and abuse this ETB, get some extra card advantage out of it, and also take out creatures too. Then there's Freya, Judge of Valor. Whenever you cast your second spell, you turn the top 3 cards of your library. 1 goes in your hand, the rest go in your graveyard. So again, yeah, great card advantage there. And on top of that, of course, well, ways to fill your graveyard with, you know, maybe some of those bigger clerics that you don't really want to cast, but want to maybe reanimate and get back out, or just, yeah, set yourself up to get them back out. Priest of the Bloodright is a great one. Enters the battlefield, creating 5/5 black demon creature with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life. You're not going to be losing 2 life. Again, we got plenty of ways to sacrifice this, get it in play, get that ETB, get a great demon, then yeah, sacrifice it to go get something that costs 4. And finally, Venerate locks it on. It's got Convoke, so we can basically cast this for free a lot of the time. Enters the battlefield, get a counter on it for each creature that convoked it. So yeah, basically a free cleric for us that, again, we sacrifice it, get extra free value. But now let's move on to tactic number 7, pick 6, because we've got some clerics that, well, cost 6. You're seeing the pattern here. Evangel of Heliod, an incredible ETB for this deck. A 1/3 even cleric enters the battlefield. You get a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the battlefield equal to devotion to white. So the more white devotion we have, well, the more soldiers we get. And again, this is a great creature to get out there to sacrifice, again, to start that chain to go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring this back out. Get some more creatures. Have fun. Then there's Lockset on Restore. And again, Convoke. So again, we can cast this for free a lot of the time. Enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. So again, just a nice little decent ETB. And then finally, one of the best cards in this deck, Sister Hospitaler? I don't know. I was going to say Hospitalizer, but I was wrong. I think I've said Hospitalizer before on this. Regardless, 3/2 even cleric enters the battlefield. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to its mana value. So this is a great way to say, hey, you know what? Bring back any cleric on ETB. Also, when this dies, again, go down that chain. So this one actually can go infinite if you are set up properly. And yeah, let's go get that 7 cost cleric. Because now we're on tactic number 8, 7th Heaven. And yeah, we've got some clerics that do cost 7. Yeah, they're usually, you know, pretty low to the ground, but these quite expensive. That being said, again, we got ways to cheat them into play, and also just, yeah, getting one that costs 7 out is just fantastic because you can go down that chain. Ancestor Chosen is a great one. Enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each card in your graveyard. That can be a lot of life gain, and again, hey, just get this out and start that chain, and yeah, have fun. Then there's Valiant Changeling. Yes, we can even take advantage of Changelings as well, which are all creature types, a 3/3 Shapeshifter with Changeling and Double Strike. It's going to cost 1 cast for each creature type among creatures you control, so that can reduce the cost a decent amount. More importantly, though, again, once we get into play, we start that chain, and this can essentially represent once we're set up properly, right? If you've got, this 7 in play, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on your graveyard, this can just basically be like 7 creatures essentially in 1 worth of value, which can just be incredible. But now let's move on to tactic number 9, not a cleric, because we do have some cards in this deck that are not clerics that do help us out kind of with our strategy. First up, Viserys here, very simple, very effective. Sacrifice creature, scry 1, an incredible sacrifice outlet that gives us, well, free sacrifices when we need them, and also some great card selection. Next up, Gate to the Afterlife. Speaking of card selection, whenever a non-token creature controlled dies, you gain 1 life, then you may draw a card if you discard a card. So again, another way to actually churn through our deck and get more creatures into our graveyard as well. Grim Harspect, just straight up card advantage. Whenever a creature, non-token creature I should say, you control dies, draw a card. It's going to happen a lot. Midnight Reaper, whenever a non-token creature control dies, exact same thing, but it's gonna be 1 damage and 1 card. That's well worth it. But yeah, we've got plenty of ways to gain life as well to bring that back. Relic Vial, this one's interesting. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice creature, draw a card. So that is some nice repeatable, creature sacrificing and also card advantage. But it also says, as long as you draw a cleric, it has whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So this is just a great one to have in a cleric deck where you're like, oh, by the way, I'm also going to be draining you all a ton. Undercity Informer, an absurd sacrifice outlet. Pay 1, so it's not free, but very cheap. Sacrifice a creature. You're going to have someone mill until they hit a land, and all those cards go in the graveyard. We can either use this to finish players off, or yeah, earlier on, more likely, just target ourselves and get a ton of things into our graveyard to have more selections for our, cleric, what do you call it? Chain, essentially, death chain, whatever it's going to be called. Then we've got Woe Strider. Enters the battlefield, you get a goat. Cool. Sacrifice our creature, scry 1. Basically, again, yet another Viserys type effect. You can also bring this back from graveyard by escaping it. Then there's your Henny Undying Partisan, a sacrifice out that is hard to deal with. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get a counter on this. You can also sacrifice another creature and gains indestructible until 5 turns. So again, a free sacrifice out that can protect itself and also can become a game-winning threat as well. Erebos Blackhearted. Basically, it might be a creature at some point. That's fine. 5/6 indestructible. Whenever a creature control dies, you can pay 2 life. If you do, you draw a card. So again, we've got ways to gain life. That's going to be fine to be able to draw a lot of cards for us. Also, you can sacrifice creatures if you want to. 1 day black, sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. Falconwrath Noble, just a great way to drain players. Whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. That's a great drain for you. Life Insurance, a really good card. Extort. So yeah, when you're casting spells, you can drain your opponents as well. On top of that, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you lose 1 life and make a treasure token. Again, we've got plenty of ways to gain life, including with this. And yeah, now we essentially just make an absurd amount of treasures when we're doing so. Ogre Slumlord, a great way to populate the board with a ton of creatures. Whenever the non-token creature dies, you can create a 1/1 black rat creature token. Rats you control have Death Touch. Keep in mind, this is not just our own creatures, but our opponents as well. One that is just for us, though, is Open the Graves. Whenever a non-token creature control dies, you make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Again, just keep in mind that we're going to have creatures die left and right. If we have our chain set up again, we got that 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Every single time we go through that chain, sacrifice those non-token creatures. With that, you'd make, what, like 7 zombies, essentially? So have fun with that. And of course, again, we've got ways to reset that, ways to make multiple chains. Things get really crazy. That's on to tag number 10, Great Lands, where we talk about, well, great lands. First up, Starlit Sanctum. Tap red colors or pay a white, tap, sacrifice a cleric. You gain life equal to toughness, or basically do the exact same thing with black, and you're going to drain someone based on the power. Again, so basically sacrifice outlet for us on a land, which is fantastic. Then finally, Skyclave Cleric. ETBs gain 2 life. This is an MDFC land, so if we need it as a land, great. We can utilize it. It comes into play, tap, we can tap for a white. Or again, we just have another 2-mana creature, another 2-mana cleric that we can utilize in our chains, and also one that does gain us some life, which is lovely. But now this episode is coming to a close. It's time for me to hear from you with your thoughts on this commander and this deck. So yeah, comment below in the description. If you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Again, this is incredibly budget friendly. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.